Good morning. We're in Devil's Lake today. My nephew's funeral is this afternoon. We came up last night for prayer service, and as our family is gathered together to commend Matthew into God's eternal care and keeping. It's just one of those hard things that we do as family, as community, and but with all that, I still like to share with you a little bit about Exodus 31 through 33 this morning. As you know, I think it was the end of chapter 25 that Moses went up on the mountain. It said he was up on the mountain for 40 days, and he's still on the mountain. And so the Lord is speaking to Moses, and this is what it's been, talking about all of these things to do. And then, he's got all of this, the tabernacle and all of this stuff to be made, and the vestments for Aaron and the priests. And then here's 31 starts. God said, "See, I have called Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, and filled him with divine spirit, and given him skills needed in wood and in silver and stone. And also I have appointed Oholiab, son of, another guy. And I have given skill to all the skillful." So God tells Moses, I have given the people the abilities that they need in order to do all that I have commanded you. I mean, there are people that will know how to do this. And I think about that. These Israelites have been slaves in Egypt for 430 years. I mean, none of them have been alive that long, of course, but they've been sheep herders. They've been brick makers. And I'm sure some of them were seamstresses and other things as well. But God says to Moses, I have given the skills necessary to all of these people so that all of this can be done, and so that they can make the tabernacle, make the Ark of the Covenant. They can make all of the holy vestments for Aaron and the priests. And then the last thing in verse 11, it says, they shall do just as I have commanded you. And then the Lord said to Moses, and then the next verses are reminders of the Sabbath. You shall keep my Sabbaths, for this is a sign between me and you throughout all generations. You shall keep it because it is holy for you. He says, whoever profanes the Sabbath, whoever works on the Sabbath shall be put to death. I mean, this is pretty serious. I mean, God doesn't mess around. And, he says, 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is a day of Sabbath, of solemn rest, holy to the Lord. And, the Israelites are to keep this Sabbath and to remember, that God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and on that seventh day he rested. And then chapter 31 ends with, as God finished speaking to Moses, he gave him 2 tablets of the covenant, the tablets of stone, written with the finger of God. And these are the first tablets of the 10 Commandments, and written with the finger of God in stone. And then now we've been reading about God up on the mountain, and then now chapter 32, we go back down and we experience a little bit of the people, as they're waiting. They saw, it says the people saw Moses delayed coming down from the mountain. They had all gone out and watched and seen the thunder and the lightning and the smoke and everything, and they'd seen Moses go up on the mountain. And it's been 40 days. And and they come to Aaron and they say, come, make gods for us who will go before us. As for this Moses, this man who brought us up, we don't know what's become of him, they kind of forgot that, this Moses, who was their leader, who they really didn't know much about Moses anyway when he came to, lead them out of captivity. He was an Egyptian, he was raised by the Pharaoh's daughter. He wasn't really one of them. So they wondered, well, did he run out or what? We don't know what has become of him, they say. So Aaron, at the pressures of the people, says to them, take off all your gold. And he made this golden calf, and I'm sure you're aware of the story. And the people all worshipped this golden calf, and And, he had made this golden calf, and he says, tomorrow will be a festival to the Lord, capital L, Lord, But yet they're going to worship this gold calf. I mean, kind of a wrong way to do things is my estimation. You don't worship God by worshiping and sacrificing to a golden calf, to to an idol. But this is what it reads to me. So they rose early the next day and offered burnt offerings and sacrifices, and the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to make merry. And the Lord says to Moses, God sees this going on down there, and he says to Moses, go down to your people. And this is quite a play on words. God says, go down at once to your people whom you brought out of the land of Egypt, have acted perversely. They have been quick to turn away from the way that I commanded. And then the Lord says to Moses, I have seen these stiff-necked people. Now leave me alone so my wrath may burn hot against them, and I will consume them. And of you I'll make a great nation. God says, I'm going to destroy these people that have forgotten who I am. They've made this golden calf and worshiped this golden calf, And God says to Moses, your people, the ones you led out of captivity. Moses turns it right back around on him, and he says, O Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and a mighty hand? So Moses is reminding God that you chose these people. They are yours. I mean, they're just, you appointed me leader. Okay, that's fine. But they're your people. They're your people, God. And if you destroy them, just what kind of message is that going to send to the Egyptians? They're just going to be able to say, yeah, this God of theirs just led them out into the desert, and he killed them all. What kind of God is that? And so Moses says that to God. And, when I think about Moses' conversation with God here, and Abraham's conversation with God, about Sodom and Gomorrah, and, if there's 50, faithful, if there's 45, 40, 30, that the example we have of Abraham and Moses talking to God on behalf of the people, reminding them, of reminding God of who God is. It gives us that same permission to talk to God, to, maybe not barter with God or bargain with God, but to be honest with God. And to count on God for God to be faithful. And this is one of the things that I'm going to talk about today is that God is faithful. And this is what Moses is reminding God. These are your people. You have made a promise to them. Be faithful to them and do what it is that you have said. In verse 14, and the Lord changed his mind about the disaster he planned to bring on the people. Not very happily, I'm sure, but he changed his mind and he decided not to destroy them. Excuse me. So Moses turned and went down the mountain carrying these 2 tablets. And as he came down, it says Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted. And he said to Moses, there is no noise of war in the camp. So, as Moses went up on the mountain, there were some that had stayed back, and Joshua was one of them. And this is the Joshua who will become the leader of the people. In the book of Joshua, we read a lot about him later. And Joshua thinks it's the noise of war in the camp, but it's not war. It's this revelry. It's this partying. It's celebrating. It's the cheering for their golden calf. And Moses throws the tablets at the foot of the mountain, and they break. And to me, that's just a reminder of how often we break the laws of God. The 10 Commandments, we may not actually murder somebody, but, we can talk badly of them. We can bring them down. There are so many ways that that we break those 10 Commandments. But Moses, it says his anger burned hot at the people. And, he knew what was going on. And Moses, calls Aaron out on it, and he talks to Aaron about it. And Aaron says, well, I didn't know what to do with all these people. And so then, Moses really has to straighten them out, and get them going. And on verse 30, the next day Moses says to people, you have sinned a great sin, but I will go up to the Lord, and maybe I can atone for your sin. So Moses goes back up and he pleads with God on behalf of the people. And in chapter 33 that we look at, it's, the Lord says, okay, it's time for these people to leave here. You lead them on, and you go on your way and go on your trip, and God continues to lead and guide them as they go. In verse 17 of chapter 33, the Lord said to Moses, I will do the very thing you have asked for you have found favor in my sight, and I know your name. Show me your glory. So Moses is talking with God again, and he sees the glory of God, but God says, no one can see my face and live. But so God continues to bless his people with Moses' leadership, and he continues to lead and guide Moses in and through all of the breaking of the laws and of everything that the Israelites have done against God. And again, it's a reminder that we come to God each and every day, knowing that we're broken, knowing that we need forgiveness, and thankful for the forgiveness that comes through Jesus Christ.